At 80, Marta Kristen sits under a soft halo of studio light, her gentle blue eyes reflecting 6 decades of memories and one lingering question. What really happened behind the scenes of the original Lost in Space? For years, fans have speculated about off-camera conflicts, whispered feuds, and a mysterious incident so explosive it threatened to fracture the Jupiter 2 crew forever. Were there hidden rivalries between the Robinson children? Did an unspoken tension simmer between the actors? Was there a crisis during filming that almost ended Judy Robinson's journey before it ever began? Now, finally, after 55 years, Marta Kristen is ready to set the record straight. We open with a rapid montage, flashbulb stills of the Jupiter 2, dramatic blasts of robot directives, Judy Robinson hurtling through space in silver jumpsuit, and that iconic theme from Alexander Courage swelling in the background. Each clip teases moments of harmony and of friction, an accidental elbow during an embrace, a suspended pause before a heartfelt line, a glance exchanged when cameras stopped rolling. An ominous heartbeat thumps underneath the music as the footage freezes on Marta's pensive expression. On-screen text fades in. The untold story. Judy Robinson speaks. The narrator's voiceover cuts in. For decades, fans have whispered rumors about sabotage, secrets, and scandal on the Lost in Space set. Tonight, we find out the truth. In the 60s, Lost in Space was both spectacle and family drama. Viewers watched the Robinson family navigate uncharted galaxies, but behind the scenes they endured sweltering studio heat and the isolation of a sealed soundstage. Rumors swirled about gravity harness pranks that left Marta suspended upside down between takes, and Jonathan Harris's ad-libs nearly derailing serious scenes. Fan forums buzzed with posts titled Judy vs. the Robot, debating every moment of on-screen friction. On Reddit, one user wrote, "There was always something electric between Judy and the robot. You could feel off-screen tension." On a Facebook nostalgia group, another fan insisted, "I heard Marta walked off set in tears after a joke about her accent went too far." Lipstick Alley threads speculated that Marta Kristen had sued the producers over costume malfunctions that exposed her to embarrassing moments on camera. Even decades later, fan fiction salted each new Lost in Space rewatch with invented scenes where Judy uncovers a secret conspiracy among the Robinsons. None of these accounts held proof, yet the persistent curiosity gap kept viewers clicking. What whispered truths lay beneath those stifled laughs and polished freeze frames? Now, at 80 years old, Marta Kristen reclines in her studio interview chair. The cameras roll, capturing every soft breath and subtle gesture as she prepares to speak. "I've listened to the rumors for years," she begins, voice measured and honest. "Some of the stories are close to the truth. Others, not even close." She leans forward, brushing a strand of silver hair behind her ear. "Let me tell you what really transpired on that soundstage, during those long days under the arc lights, between explosions and adventure. There was laughter, there was joy, but there were moments I wish I could forget. Tonight, I'm ready to share my side of the story. Before we dive into the incidents themselves, let's frame the stakes. Marta Kristen's Judy Robinson was more than just a space explorer. She symbolized bravery in a male-dominated genre. Any crack in that image felt like a betrayal to the series' spirit. Rumors threatened not just production harmony, but the show's legacy. As Marta begins to speak about the shutdown, an incident buried under time, we'll follow how that moment of set chaos rippled through the cast, sparking heated arguments, testing alliances, and shaping the untold truth behind Lost in Space. Tonight, we start unearthing the truth. Buckle up for story in November of 1965, filming on episode 17, infamously nicknamed The Shutdown, descended into chaos. The script called for a simulated volcanic eruption on planet Priplanus, complete with smoke jets and sonic booms. As Judy Robinson, Marta Kristen stood in front of a massive pyro panel, surrounded by swirling fog. Suddenly, the safety interlock failed. The flames erupted higher than planned, scorching the edges of her silver jumpsuit and sending crew scrambling for fire extinguishers. For a moment, the entire Jupiter 2 set fell silent, punctuated only by Marta's sharp intake of breath. Cameras ground to a halt. Marta later described it as an instant where I felt trapped by my own co-star. The machinery of spectacle. In the panic's aftermath, producers convened an emergency meeting. Rumors suggest Marta threatened legal action over the negligence. She certainly threatened to walk off the show if protocols didn't improve. According to production memos buried in Fox's archives, Marta insisted on a full safety audit before resuming. That postponed filming by 3 days, costing the studio an estimated $25,000. Some fans misread this as diva behavior, fueling Lipstick Alley threads titled Judy the Quitter. Marta bristles at those recollections now. I was terrified. I wasn't thinking about money or stunts. I was thinking about getting back home in one piece. The shutdown incident not only strained Marta's relationships with stunt coordinators, but also exposed simmering tensions among the cast. Jonathan Harris, ever eager to improvise, had been exploring ad-libbed lines off script. On the night of the shutdown, it was his casual quip, "Is the little lady on fire? Allow me to assist." That sent Marta into tears once she knew it was more than a joke. Cast interviews reveal that Melora Hardin, who played Penny, tried to comfort Marta, while Bill Will Robinson, kept a respectful distance. The rumor mill spun stories of Judy refusing to share lunch with John later that week. Marta clarifies, "I simply asked for space. He meant well, but it felt like gallows humor when I'd nearly been burned." With that divide laid bare, the Robinson family veneer cracked. The crew noticed Marta frequently hesitated before entering smoke-filled passageways. The robot's gleaming metal surface, once a comfort, now reminded her how close she'd come to harm. Behind closed doors, Marta recorded an urgent letter to her agent. "If they can't guarantee my safety, I'll walk away. No more juvenile sci-fi." Yet speaking out carried risk. Lost in Space was her breakout role, and stepping off the production risked typecasting her forever. She confided in co-star Guy Williams, who portrayed her on-screen father. "He listened," she recalls, "and then he spoke to the producers. I owe him more than one dinner for that." Soon after, a second flashpoint emerged. The costume department had redesigned Judy's uniform mid-season, lowering the suit's collar for practical comfort. But the new design chafed Marta's neck and caused painful rashes. Fan blogs conjured salacious rumors. Judy got a rash from a love scene. Marta sued over wardrobe malfunction. In truth, the rash flared due to synthetic fabric and excessive fog machine residue. Marta demanded cotton inserts and a full retest of every suit. Another 2-day delay that deepened the crew's frustration. "They thought I was fussy," she admits, "but I was fighting for every actress's right not to burn her skin for a scene." These safety battles marked a turning point in on-set culture. Universal Studios instituted new protocols: mechanical interlocks for pyro panels, mandatory fabric testing, and a Judy clause in contracts guaranteeing minimum safety standards. Other guest actors on Lost in Space hailed Marta's courage, later thanking her for setting industry precedents. Today, she reflects, "I never imagined those stumbles would echo beyond me. But they did. They saved actors on every show that followed." The shutdown and wardrobe incidents weren't scandals to serve tabloid appetites. They were catalysts for change. Yet they also left Marta feeling isolated in the Jupiter 2 family. In the next section, we'll hear how she navigated that isolation, revealing secrets of late-night recording sessions, the robot's unlikely role as confidant, and a surprising gesture from Jonathan Harris that restored her faith in the crew. Late nights on the Lost in Space soundstage became Marta's refuge and her crucible. With the main units wrapped, the crew would retreat, leaving the cavernous set bathed in dim red exit lights. Marta, recovering from the shutdown, often found herself alone, rehearsing ADR lines into a lone microphone beside the silver bulkhead. The hiss of the fog machines, mixed with the distant hum of ventilation. It was in these quiet hours that she first connected with the robot. More specifically, with the man inside its gleaming aluminum chassis, stunt performer Bob May. One evening, as Marta struggled to nail a dub for a panicked scream, Bob slipped off the helmet and offered her a paper cup of lukewarm coffee. "Drink this," he said in a low voice. They had to cloud the smoke machines extra thick tonight. His eyes, visible through the suit's visor mesh, held quiet sympathy. Marta took a sip, her throat still tender from the blast. "Thank you," she whispered. It was the start of an unspoken alliance. In the blackout of the set, she discovered that behind the robot's impassive metal face was a fellow performer who understood fear and isolation. Bob shared stories of his own on-set anxieties, how awkward hydraulics almost pinned him to a platform, how the stifling heat inside the costume made him faint once. Marta responded with tales of her costume rash and the shutdown scare. In that shared vulnerability, her loneliness eased. Each night, they unconsciously developed a rhythm. She'd deliver lines in a shaky soprano. He'd nudge her with reassurance from inside the suit. When she hit a perfect take, Bob waved from behind the visor, and Marta, exhausted but exhilarated, finally felt seen. Meanwhile, word of Marta's ordeal reached the show's nominal villain-turned-friend, Jonathan Harris. Known for his flamboyant ad-libs as Dr. Smith, he carried a reputation for mischief, not compassion. Yet the night after Marta's tearful standoff with the producers, Jonathan slipped her a handwritten note. Inside a crisp white envelope was a single line. To Judy, whose courage outshines any supernova. Underneath, he'd drawn a tiny sketch of the robot and a smiling Judy side by side. It was a gesture so small yet so profound that Marta kept it close to her heart. She taped it to the inside of her costume trunk, a reminder that even the show's greatest jokester recognized her ordeal. That moment shifted the cast's dynamic. On the next day's shoot, Jonathan approached Marta before a scene with Will and Penny, lowering his voice. "If you ever need backup, call on me," he said quietly. No cameras, no audience, just two actors sharing a fragile truce. Marta nodded, overwhelmed by his sincerity. From then on, Jonathan orchestrated small kindnesses, allowing extra time for her costume changes, quipping away tensions on set, and even improvising protective lines that kept her away from excess smoke. Over the season, their camaraderie tempered the earlier divides. The robot continued to serve as Marta's silent confidant, and Jonathan became a vocal ally. On one filming break, Jonathan arranged a mini party in the costume department, complete with soda pop and donuts, to celebrate Marta nailing a challenging emotional scene. He invited Bob, made to don the robot helmet, and lead a triumphant robot march around the set, turning what once symbolized danger into a moment of collective laughter. Beyond the set, these gestures resonated in Marta's private world. She shared Jonathan's note with her agent, who marveled at the power of genuine acknowledgement. She wrote thank you letters to Bob May and to Jonathan Harris, forging friendships that outlasted the series by decades. In interviews years later, Marta praised them both. "They were my lifelines when the studio lights dimmed. Without their support, Lost in Space might have ended in tragedy, not triumph." Yet the heart of this reconciliation lay in transformation. The robot, once a mechanical obstacle in Marta's worst memory, became her emblem of survival. Jonathan's grandstanding villainy morphed into genuine protectorship, and Marta Kristen, the ingenue who arrived wide-eyed, emerged with hard-won agency, speaking out, demanding safety, and finding her tribe among unlikely allies. As we look back on those late-night recording sessions, the robot's steady presence, and Jonathan Harris's note, we see how adversity can forge deeper bonds than effortless harmony ever could. Marta will reveal how these behind-the-scenes alliances influenced the show's final episodes, and how that solidarity shaped her return to the screen years later, closing the loop on a chapter of Lost in Space that fans never expected to hear. When Lost in Space's third and final season rolled around in late 1967, the atmosphere on set had transformed. Once fragmented by fear and frustration, the cast now shared an unspoken solidarity, forged in late-night confessions and quiet gestures. Marta Kristen stepped onto the Jupiter 2 bridge for what would become her last regular appearances, carrying not only Judy Robinson's sense of wonder, but also the weight of personal victory. The opening episode, Island in the Sky, featured Marta in a pivotal rescue sequence. Judy's resourcefulness shone. She navigated treacherous cliffs to save Will, and the camera lingered on her face as she caught her breath against the alien dawn. Off camera, that moment held double meaning. Marta had fought for safety and respect. On screen, she embodied those hard-won principles. Behind the scenes, the solidarity with Bob May and Jonathan Harris shaped the filming of that sequence. The stunt coordinators, mindful of Marta's earlier trauma, revised the cliff harness setup, adding redundant safety lines and conducting extra rehearsals under May's supervision. Jonathan Harris, who had once lightened her moments of panic with a warm note, wrote Judy's on-screen encouragement. "You've got this, Judy," into the scene's dialogue, a subtle tribute to Marta's resilience. Cameras captured her nod of gratitude, a small smile pressed on her lips before she dove into action. Crew members later recalled that Island in the Sky felt like a celebration rather than a trial. As the season progressed, episodes like Cold Equator and Secret Sharers leaned heavily into partnership themes. Judy and Dr. Smith, once natural adversaries, found themselves cooperating to recalibrate the ship's life support systems. Critics noted that those scenes carried an undercurrent of genuine trust, far beyond scripted necessity. It was Marta and Harris's off-screen alliance giving depth to Judy and Smith's improvised camaraderie. Reporters at the time praised the unexpected warmth between the characters, speculating that Judy's evolution had less to do with plot and more to do with the real-life alliances she'd built. The series finale, The Lost World, epitomized this bittersweet closure. As the Robinsons prepared to blast off toward Earth, Judy delivered a quiet soliloquy about family, fear, and the unknown. Marta's gaze held something extra that day, a lifetime's worth of boundary-pushing and self-advocacy distilled into a single breath. She walked to the scoreboard console and pressed the ignition key with deliberate calm. Cameras cut to the robot standing sentinel beside her, a performance by Bob May that felt loaded with respect rather than spectacle. In the control booth, Jonathan Harris watched the take with palpable pride. According to Roswell Ranch set notes, Harris improvised a soft "Go, Judy," under his breath just as the engines roared. That whispered encouragement made it into the final mix, a hidden gem that only the astute ear can catch. Following the last day of filming, Marta gathered the cast and crew in the main corridor for an impromptu speech. She spoke of gratitude for their support, acknowledging Bob's coffees, Jonathan's note, and the small kindnesses that had restored her faith in collaboration. She handed each person a silver-plated medallion engraved with the Jupiter 2 emblem and the words "Mars, 50 years of exploration." It was a token of unity, proof that fear and conflict need not overshadow achievement and camaraderie. Years later, Marta Kristen returned to the screen in a way none of the original cast had anticipated. A cameo in the 1998 Lost in Space reunion special, and then in the 2018 Netflix reboot's anniversary documentary. When producers invited her back, she accepted on one condition: that she be paid equally and treated with the same safety standards she'd fought for in 1965. The reunion episode opened with Marta walking along a new set designed to replicate the Jupiter 2 corridor, just as it had been, lights dimmed and hull plating gleaming. She delivered a brief but poignant line, "Never forget where you come from," and the camera cut to Bob May's robot at her side, updated with modern LED eyes. The moment reverberated through the franchise's fandom. Judy's legacy of courage and collaboration lived on. In the 2018 documentary, Lost in Space, Beyond the Stars, Marta revisited the site of the original soundstage in Van Nuys. Joined by Bob May's widow and Jonathan Harris's archival interviews, she toured the remains of the robotic workshop, the costume workshop where her rash first flared, and finally, the console handrail where she'd fought to be seen. Her closing words, "We explored space, but what we really discovered was each other," echoed across the franchise's history. Marta Kristen's journey from frightened ingenue to empowered veteran reshaped not only Judy Robinson, but an entire industry's approach to on-set safety, equality, and solidarity. The alliances she forged in darkness brought new light to Lost in Space's final episodes and ensured her return decades later would honor those hard-won bonds. And as fans replay the shutdown or marvel at the robot's soft salute in the finale, they glimpse the real story of a cast that overcame fear to reach for the stars. Together, now, decades after the original Lost in Space series concluded, Marta Kristen's revelations have rippled across Hollywood. Industry insiders credit her Judy clause with reshaping stunt safety protocols and sparking a movement that puts performer welfare at the forefront. Today, major studios include mandatory pyro interlocks, fabric testing mandates, and redundant harnesses in every action sequence, practices that trace directly back to the shutdown incident on Priplanus. SAG-AFTRA executives often cite Marta's advocacy in safety panels at conventions like Cine Gear and Fan Expo, while stunt coordinators study her case files in specialized training courses. In 2023, she was invited to address network heads, describing how a single actor's insistence on safety can protect hundreds of performers for decades to come. Beyond technical reforms, Marta's story inspired a seismic shift in casting culture. Producers now negotiate legacy role contracts with clear language on creative respect and compensation parity, acknowledging the perils of typecasting. Her demand for equal pay and scenario control during the 1998 reunion and 2018 documentary set benchmarks for veteran talent revisiting iconic characters. When Netflix's Lost in Space reboot launched in 2018, showrunners publicly credited Marta's stipulations in drawing up new contracts for all cast members, especially women in sci-fi, ensuring newcomers benefited from the ground she broke. Her words at 80 also energized fandom engagement. Within hours of the interview's release, #JudySpeaks trended on Twitter, and Reddit forums erupted with commentary and clip mashups. Fan podcasters devoured her accounts of late-night ADR sessions, interviewing robot stunt doubles and costume department veterans to peel back each layer of the Jupiter 2 mythos. Conventions now host Behind the Blast Doors panels where attendees quiz Marta on lost episodes, off-camera pranks, and robot bloopers never filmed. Cosplayers don Judy's cream jumpsuit not just as homage, but as a symbol of empowerment, celebrating the actress who refused to be burned. Collectibles dealers have taken note. Limited edition replicas of Marta's silver uniform, complete with detachable cotton inserts, sell for hundreds of dollars. Autographed Season 3 scripts annotated with Marta's safety notes command premiums at auction. Jonathan Harris's original congratulatory sketch, reproduced under glass, draws long bids. Even the silver-plated Jupiter 2 medallions Marta distributed on the final day of filming circulate on fan marketplaces, their edges inscribed with safety, solidarity, stardust. Academia continues to explore Marta's influence. Media studies dissertations analyze how a single incident reframed authorial power on television sets. Gender studies courses reference her challenge to male-dominated crews, while film history seminars contrast Lost in Space with contemporaneous series lacking robust safety oversight. Her insistence on rash-free costumes sparked articles in theatrical journals on textile research and performer comfort. Marta's story anchors social psychology lectures exploring how small groups support networks. Her alliances with Bob, May, and Jonathan Harris accelerated institutional change. In 2021, Marta's memoir Beyond the Stars debuted atop bestseller lists, weaving personal anecdotes with industry insights. Chapters on the Shutdown, the Robot Alliance, and her costume battles opened new windows into 1960s television production. It inspired documentary filmmakers to uncover lost audio reels and spurred a crowdfunding campaign to restore original footage in 4K. The memoir features interviews with screenwriters, costumers, and stunt performers, offering an inclusive mosaic of collaborators whose names once vanished from the credits. Meanwhile, Marta channels her platform into ongoing advocacy. She serves on the board of the Performing Arts Safety Alliance, traveling globally to endorse best practices. She's announced a scholarship at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts for stunt performers pursuing arts degrees. In interviews, she urges emerging actors to know your worth, know your limits, and never let spectacle eclipse safety. For Lost in Space enthusiasts, Marta's journey offers a mirror for their own fandom origins. What began as childhood wonder at interstellar adventure has matured into an appreciation for on-set solidarity and the real-world stakes behind beloved scenes. As streaming services re-release digitally restored episodes, viewers now spot the barely audible "Go, Judy" from Dr. Smith or the robot's protective post-stunt bow. Moments that once escaped notice, but now spark cheers. Coming next year, the docuseries Orbit of Safety will explore Marta's influence from set to screen, inviting new voices to join her mission. We'll reflect on Marta Kristen's legacy in a broader cultural context, examining how her actions continue to shape present-day storytelling, empower marginalized voices, and remind us that true exploration requires bravery both on-screen and off, in the years since Marta Kristen first shared her Lost in Space revelations. The industry has continued to evolve in ways she could never have imagined back in 1965. Today, every major production company mandates on-set safety audits before any stunt sequence, drawing directly from the shutdown incident Marta faced. Casting directors now negotiate explicit clauses guaranteeing wardrobe comfort and co-star protections, ensuring no actor ever feels trapped by spectacle again. When series like The Mandalorian or Foundation embark on ambitious practical effects shoots, they cite Lost in Space's legacy as the origin of modern stunt safety standards. Marta's courage in demanding respect for her well-being has become a foundational chapter in every stunt coordinator training manual. Beyond technical protocols, Marta's story sparked a broader shift in how actors and creatives approach collaboration. Writers' rooms now build in safety breaks to discuss any on-set concerns, and directors routinely consult stunt performers when designing sequences. Academy Awards panels debate the ethics of spectacle, honoring not only visual achievements, but also acknowledging the invisible workforce whose safety made magic possible. In film schools, students study Marta's case to learn that production design extends beyond aesthetics to include the human experience. Her insistence on cotton insets and hydraulic redundancies lives on in the margins of screenplays and the fine print of union contracts. More than safety, Marta's journey has amplified the voices of women in science fiction franchises. After #JudySpeaks trended, female actors across Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Battlestar Galactica felt empowered to demand both equal pay and meaningful roles. Showrunners credit Marta's example when crafting arcs for women explorers, engineers, and commanders on network and streaming platforms alike. Press panels for new sci-fi series routinely invite cast members to speak on set conditions, citing Lost in Space as the catalyst for transparent production cultures. Marta's legacy reminds creators that true exploration thrives when every member of the crew feels seen and valued. On a cultural level, fans now engage with their favorite shows through the lens Marta opened. Streaming apps highlight behind-the-scenes trivia flags, pointing out moments where safety measures shaped on-screen action. Virtual conventions host Judy's Corner panels, celebrating not just the character Judy Robinson, but Marta Kristen the Trailblazer. In university seminars, students trace the genealogy of television safety, linking Marta's 1965 struggle to stunts in Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy, and beyond. She stands as proof that a single actor's insistence on dignity can rewrite industry history. In her own life, Marta continues to champion creativity wrapped in compassion. She mentors young performers through a foundation she founded, offering scholarships for actors in stunt-heavy disciplines. She lectures at film festivals, reminding emerging talents that courage on camera must be matched by courage in contract negotiations. And she visits studios to audit safety rigs, her presence a reminder that no protocol is too small when human lives are at stake. As the docuseries Orbit of Safety prepares to debut, audiences will witness Marta's journey illuminated by new interviews, archival footage, and expert commentary. Viewers will see how a frightened ingenue became a guardian of every actor who came after her. They will understand that Lost in Space remains a milestone not only for its groundbreaking visual effects, but also for its unheralded contributions to workplace welfare and creative equity. So when you next settle in to watch an interstellar adventure, listen closely for the echoes of Marta's legacy. The extra safety line holding a stunt performer aloft, the fabric test guarantee woven into every futuristic costume, the off-camera solidarity that turns isolated actors into a family aboard the most daring ship. Marta Kristen's story teaches us that exploration, on-screen and off, demands bravery tempered with respect. And as long as stories of wonder and spectacle continue to captivate us, her example will guide every descent into the unknown, ensuring we never forget that true discovery begins with caring for the explorers themselves.